Hey, welcome into Kudzu Sports. Ooh, a little hot on that. Welcome into Kudzu Sports. I'm your host, Rick Beach. I've got the computer not functioning right. Just going to have my show notes on it, ain't going to lie. So it's going to turn into Wing It Like You Never Won kind of 30-minute show, which I think we could handle. We're live today into the National Audio Visual Services studio over on Whittlesey Road. Great service, anything audio visual. Believe it was Troup County's athletic building. Hooked all the speakers up over there. Ain't no telling how many schools they put the whiteboards up, the smart boards. Phenomenal services. Great people. Like I said, they use their studio equipment, knowledge that Alex has given me, and advice. Lord knows more than a fair share of advice on stuff, especially today when things may not be going as smoothly as I expected, or would, probably he would like it to go sometimes, but we got it figured out for the most part. Hey, we're live, we're streaming. I would imagine I don't have access to comments, but I don't get a load of those right now. But this is one of the fun parts of the show. It's like the baby steps. I believe we had the Nothing Finer podcast been 3 or 4 years ago, and when Alex got it, really grew pretty quick to a point where we felt the need for more sports, not just isolating ourselves and painting ourselves into a corner. I really like the idea of the Kudzu, covering Auburn, covering Georgia, covering local stuff, the River Dragons, Chattahoots this summer. Hopefully we'll get down there and check out some games. That's the idea of the show. That's where we like it to go. And I believe we'll get there. It starts with, low viewership and little comments, and it grows. It has to. You have to be, I'm big on consistency. I'm big on, getting on social media and absolutely posting the crap out of stuff and not really forcing it down people's throat, but in a sense, I do try to force it down people's throat because I want it to work. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. The Harris County stuff on the Kudzu page, sorry, but that's just the way it is. I think promoting your community that you live in, that you support, I think there's ways to support it, not just, get on there and talk. I think bragging about the high school, brag about the Little League, brag about anything the county does at the school, the county itself, anything, is good to promote it. And when it's happening athletically, I'd like to be the board, the springboard that they use. I am in communication with coaches at a consistent basis, more so than I was a year ago, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I get, I used to have to beg the school to try to send me updates, beg the school to try to get me information on upcoming events, and I don't have to now. I have, I get that on my own now from, an abundance of sources at the school, and I'm proud of that, really proud of it. And, that's, like I said, just by being persistent, and I think that's the thing that Kudzu Sports is doing, is we put ourselves out there. And, we're at Auburn. Did I grow up an Auburn fan? No. Do I love Auburn football? Honestly, no. I love the university. I love the people at the university. They've made that. I think Shelley Poe is one of the sweetest women I ever met. Miss Kathy. They're just great people, phenomenal people. Greg Nunley with the baseball side. They're always polite. They're always on top of things. With Georgia, Josh Brooks has sent letters, handwritten letters to me. That's cool. That's big time because they're nothing more than thank yous or hellos, but it shows that, you just keep hammering at a wall. Eventually something's going to break. And, luckily with Harris County, it did break. I do serve on the Little League board. I do umpire Little League games. I'll umpire or I'll assist with anything at the Little League field. I'll assist with the Pee Wee flag football if they ask. I'm big on helping the community. I enjoy that kind of stuff. And I also, would feel that's what more people should do. if they have the capability. I have the capability with, Alex at Navs helping out, and, we've been able to throw some stuff together, and I believe we put out a good product. And, I jokingly tell people at work, I think Kudzu's the, best thing nobody's heard of. And eventually people are going to hear about it. And whether it's the college football talk or whether it's high school wrestling talk, I don't care. I enjoy talking about it, and that's what we're going to talk about. Like right now, we're going to talk about the Harris County baseball team. Won 4 in a row, beating Russell County at Russell County last night with down by 1 and then winning by 2. Ethan Moss with a double, to take the lead. Ethan Moss also came in and got the win. The left-handed pitcher, right-handed throwing, or right-handed hitting, left-handed throwing kid has been really good this year. You could kind of see it at the start of the year, but, man, he's really stepped it up the last few weeks. They went down to Tifton last week, and Logan Willis, threw a gem in the last game, complete game shutout. And look, in high school, you don't see that as much as you used to. It ain't just Major League Baseball that the complete game's gone away. It's gone at every level. I mean, with a pitch count, you don't see it in the Little League no more. Little League Baseball, you might get 4 innings out of a kid. That's a lot in A-ball, the 12U, however you want to age them out. You get 4 innings out of a kid throwing, that's pretty good. You get 5, that's amazing. Because usually you're up around that, 70, 75 pitch count, and you got to take him out, and he's got to sit out for so long. It ain't like it used to be in Little League where, over at American, I think everybody that played Mark Kent used to throw it seemed like every game for the A's over there, every game, every inning, dude was just tossing. And, that's not going to be like that no more. You got to have plenty of them. And middle school, JV, varsity, you don't see it. So Logan Willis going a complete game down in Tifton last week, getting the win, beating, I think that was Ridgeview from down there in Florida. And that's incredible. And like I said, I'll brag about Harris County track. Jalen Thomas setting, he's top 20 in the nation on the high jump. That's impressive. 6'6". That's a good, that's a big deal. Coach Nesbitt and Coach Holmes, got it going pretty good. Middle school baseball still rolling. Coach Gilstrap and Coach Moss putting together, that team. That's the core of that team is the kids that went to Williamsport Southeast last year and Warner Robins for the chance to go to Williamsport. And, that's a special group. You could say, look what Russell County did with the team that went, to Williamsport from Phoenix City. They turned into a really good high school baseball team. You look at, of course, with Kyle Carter and them, when they got up to Columbus, which Bobby Howard seemed like he could win state with anybody, especially early 2000s, late 90s. You just throw 9 people out there and Bobby Howard going to win state. But, Kyle Carter and so Little League does, if you keep a core together, you keep kids together, it does roll over into success. And, I think Harris County is going to be able to have that. They got a good group behind them and in front of that team. So the high school in the future, I tell people till I'm blue in the face how I feel about the future of the high school baseball team and how I feel Coach Westmoreland, that bunch is going to have some phenomenal talent, and I'm excited about it. So we'll transition that, while we're talking baseball, we'll go over to college. Auburn, they haven't lost since, I believe, the 3rd game of the year. They did get a tie with USC, and they've been rolling. I can't, right off the top of my head, they haven't, beat by Indiana and tied with USC. They played Jacksonville State tonight, which, with baseball you can't ever tell. But, hell, with football you can't either because Auburn about got beat by Jacksonville State a few years ago. I was just going to look at the baseball. I feel baseball is more, the SEC is dominant. It's like 6 teams in the top 10 or SEC. That's off the top of my head. And I don't, it's like somebody like Auburn is having a great start to this season. Georgia's having a decent start to their season. And I say decent for them. It's Strickland's 10th year. It shouldn't be decent anymore. About time to make that step. But, for Auburn, LSU, Tennessee, all these other teams, Vanderbilt, Florida, South Carolina, there's, some great teams. Alabama's like 18th in the country. And that's middle of the pack in the SEC, if that. That might be back end of the pack. That's just incredible, the baseball talent in the SEC. For Auburn and Georgia not to be in that top 5 is kind of suspect, but I think Auburn, especially, is having a better year than Georgia so far. And Georgia did win 2 out of 3 against Georgia Tech, losing the 3rd game at Coolray Stadium. They played 1 in Athens, 1 in Atlanta. Then they played the 3rd game at Gwinnett at the Gwinnett Striper Stadium. But, I mean, it is what it is with Georgia, any other sport. I mean, Stegman Coliseum, the basketball Coliseum's falling apart right now if they can't hold events there. And that's, for a team that's sinking in millions and millions and millions in the football program, it ain't a good look when the basketball stadium's falling apart. That's just my opinion. And like I said, what I said about Auburn earlier, I feel the same way with Georgia. I love University of Georgia, but that's embarrassing to have Stegman, which everybody agrees that thing should be probably taken down by now. They have remodeled it so many times in just the last 10, 15 years to keep it relevant, and it's still outdated. You look at what Auburn did with Neville Arena. That arena is phenomenal, and that atmosphere is crazy cool. I love going to the big games over there. Like I said, not even as an Auburn fan, just as a sports fan. You get the atmosphere. You're right on top of the action. You can look at it locally. People going back in the day to the Cottonmouths and now to the River Dragons. You don't have to be a hockey fan. You just be a sports fan. You just be a fan of, having a good time. The River Dragons games are fun. It helps that they're 34-6 or something. That helps always to see a team win. But it's always been fun to go down there. It's a great show they put on. I believe the Lions are going to put on a better show. They got a lot of overturn at the top. I'd like to try to get my foot in with them, but if not, it won't be for lack of trying. But, I just love being in exciting atmospheres, and, you get the crowd in Neville Arena. Whatever Auburn did, they nailed it. That place is crazy. The stadium, the music, everything, and it don't, like I said, winning helps. SEC tournament starts up. Last year Auburn being the regular season SEC champs, it had a ton of hype, but it seems a regular season champ don't always win that tournament championship in baseball or basketball in the SEC. I believe, you got to look at, Tennessee, Alabama to be up there. Alabama should win the SEC tournament. What them winning the regular season lets me know they're not. The whole Brandon Miller situation, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Alabama should win the SEC tournament. I'm not gonna be pulling for them because of that stuff. I don't care what they say. If only Alabama fans are going to defend the kid, then that tells you there's a problem. If only one, particular fan base wants to defend somebody on something they did, you bring somebody a gun at 1:30 in the morning, then somebody ends up dead. You might not legally be at fault, but in the court of the public opinion, you guilty. And that's how I feel with Brandon Miller. That's why he wasn't on the Wooten Award list of the top 20 players, because everybody in the country outside of Tuscaloosa knows, smells like a duck, walks like a duck. On that. So I won't be pulling for Alabama in the SEC tournament. Georgia plays at 9 o'clock tonight. If I'm being honest, they'll probably be back in Athens around 1 o'clock this morning, maybe 2. I don't know. Mike White might let them spend the night and chill out in Nashville and then maybe watch another game tomorrow. But they won't be playing I don't think they will be. If I watch them, they definitely won't be playing, because I don't think I've watched a game that Georgia won this year in basketball all season. I missed the Auburn home game, they won that, and I missed the Kentucky home game, and they won that. So I'll be watching them tonight at 9 o'clock, so Georgia season's about to come to an end. Auburn, it would be fun to see them win. I like Bruce Pearl. He's a fun, energetic guy. He's real, he talks at the football games. He talks to all the fans that comes across. He don't turn anybody down. He jokes around with people. The media, he's super friendly with the media. Pictures and, interviews and just anything you want with Bruce Pearl, he does. He's at every football game and just a super nice guy. So I do support him. I do like to see, if they win, I'm happy for him. And, I'm happy for, since it's basketball, I can be happy for my Auburn friends. Football is a little different to an extent. that's just me being honest. But with the football A-Day, April 8th, they also got a baseball game that same day. So if you're coming, like I said, I promote it outside just being a sports fan, that if you get the opportunity to do the double dip, absolutely do it. Go to the A-Day, walk across the street, the Plainsman Park, and check out the baseball game. I don't know the times yet on them, but I don't see them running them at the same time. That would make zero sense if you're Auburn. You got a chance to go from Jordan-Hare to Plainsman, and it's right across the street. It's not like in Athens where you got to walk across campus to go from Sanford Stadium to Foley Field. You know, it's right there at Auburn. So if you get a chance, April 8th, check out A-Day. I saw Hugh Freeze is going to start A-Day. Defense is going to be up 24-0. He says that you should be able to defend a 24-0 lead. You should be able to hold that. And if you're an offense, you should be able to, you know, come back from a 24-0 lead. How that works, I don't know. It's a little gimmicky. So, I mean, I'm not going to – but I don't want to say too much about it. I don't want to start making Mickey Mouse comparisons and stuff that you'll hear from some people. I want to see if it works. You know, I want to see how Hugh Freeze works. He has the – okay, this is going to sound funny from the amount of scandals that he had and the recruiting scandals. I ain't going to talk about the personal scandals. We all made mistakes before. But the recruiting scandals, he had a lot of talent. But he has the potential to have a consistent amount of good talent at Auburn that he couldn't get at Ole Miss. I believe that he can recruit better at Auburn. I think Auburn is set up better recruiting-wise than Ole Miss ever dreamed of, with Atlanta being right down the road, Florida being right down the road. Oh, it's there. The connection's there. It just has to happen. And like I said before, I don't think you're going to be able to compete on the Alabama and Georgia level. I don't think you could do it year in, year out. But Auburn should have a team, especially with expanded playoffs. And then you got a coach like Hugh Freeze. Why can't Auburn be a playoff team, 2 out of 3 years, with probably a title contending team every 3 years? It would say 4 with the recruiting classes, but let's just say every 3 years, that's a quarterback coming in and having a time to get them up and maybe in competing, try to get that first round bye. Be in the title talk. Don't just settle for, hey, we're 10th and we made the playoffs. Auburn can be really good. They can be just as good as, Florida now. I think LSU is on that level where they can be, Georgia, Alabama, and then LSU could kind of be there and kind of separate themselves from the rest of the SEC because of Baton Rouge, where they can recruit New Orleans, they can recruit Houston, and they can get those areas. It's a little harder for the other SEC schools to get into. Yes, even Texas A&M, when they're not making these stupid NIL deals that you saw how that worked out. And now you got Bobby Petrino and company over there. I just don't. A&M's not built for the long run success. I think they had their run in the COVID year where they went to the Orange Bowl. But going back with Auburn, I just see, they're right there on the doorstep of being in that, making a step towards that top tier. And can they keep the top tier in the SEC consistently? No. But I don't think they have to. I don't think that's where they're at. When they won it, when you're Auburn and you won it with Cam Newton, okay, you won it right after Alabama won their first national championship in, 10, 15 years, whatever. That felt like a long time to them. But Auburn did a good job at answering right back. You went and got Cam Newton. You went and got Nick Fairley. You came right back and answered the bell, and it's like you could have kept up with Auburn, but they slid back. Or could have kept up with Alabama. Same thing, 13 season. And if Auburn could have pulled that one off, you put an Auburn stamp in the middle of this Alabama run. And that's where Auburn has to try to come in there, and especially now that it looks like it's going to be a Georgia and potentially Alabama run into the last 3 championships. And look, Georgia's going to be right up there again this year. And people can say their schedule, but no, it don't matter. Certain teams, they ain't going to get there because they got an easy schedule. If Georgia makes it to the playoffs, it's because they're going to be a championship team, and they've earned that, just like Alabama's earned that before when maybe they didn't play the toughest November schedule with how it shakes out. So, I mean, I think Auburn needs to Is it going to be this year? I wouldn't expect Hugh Freeze to have a Gus Malzahn type year. The big thing with Gus, remember when he left and he came right back to Auburn, some of that stuff, them players were kind of familiar with his style. The fans were, the boosters were. This is all new with Hugh Freeze. I do think Ashford has the potential to have a good year with his shoulder surgery. I do just, I think Robbie Ashford is a good quarterback. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think he's a really good quarterback. There's a reason he was recruited by everybody out of high school. When he was at Hoover, there's a reason Georgia offered him scholarships. The reason he went to Oregon. He's a really good quarterback. People forget that. They get called in, what have you done for me right this second? How good are you playing right this second? And, they don't take into account, well, he ain't played a game in 2 years. He hasn't done this. He don't have an offensive line. That Auburn offensive line last year was horrific. That was an awful offensive line. There's no way around that, and there's no way that a quarterback that's not on that elite level, I don't even know how good a year, say Deshaun Watson at his Clemson, if he could have went in there. He didn't right away at Clemson. Remember, he set out his freshman year a good bit. So, I just think Robbie Ashford got a bad shake, especially with being injured. He made some big-time throws throughout the season. Even in the Iron Bowl, he threw a dime in the Iron Bowl. But it's hard to play, number one, you don't have the talent at wide receivers that you probably need. You have a good Tank who was kind of banged up last year. Jarquez Hunter's a really good running back. But you don't have that go-to wide receiver, and you don't have no kind of offensive line. All right, go get him. That's just it's absurd to blame it on Robbie Ashford or to look down on him when he had just no chance for success. There was no chance that he was ever going to be successful last year just on what was around him. I think if he got a shoulder fix, having a Hugh Freeze, he made Bo Wallace a winner. Come on, this dude's going to be fine at Auburn. Am I guaranteeing championships? No. But you know what? You're going to be competitive in games. You're not going to do stupid stuff like Harsin was doing. You're not going to have a team quit on you like they quit on Harsin. That stuff won't happen anymore. And yeah, I think Auburn's going to have a pretty good season. And real quick, we'll go over to Athens where they're having a quarterback battle. And I think Carson Beck's going to be the starting quarterback. I think he gets it not handed to him, but he's got a step up on everybody. He's a head up on everybody. And I like Brock Vandergriff, and I like Gunnar Stockton. Now, could there be something with Gunnar Stockton getting some packages? He was recruited by Bobo at South Carolina. He committed. Is there anything to that? I think maybe to an extent, but not fully. I still think it's going to be Beck. I think Beck might have the best arm out of the three. And at the end of the day, he knows the system. How much the system changes with offensive coordinator, we don't know, so it's hard to say. But, okay, he knows the system, but he knows the players. And he's played against the best defense in the country 2 years in a row, every week at practice. And you don't think that makes a difference? Stetson Bennett shows you. Stetson Bennett played against that defense his whole college career. He went against one of the best defenses in the country. So when he was ready to go, it was nothing new on game day. And that's how it's going to be for Carson Beck, who's played against Brock Vandergriff. He spent 2 years in college, and he's played phenomenal defenses while he's in college every week in practice. That's the difference that this, it makes. These kids aren't going to go in there against, Arkansas or, Missouri and be like, holy crap, these guys can fly. They see it. And they got the talent around them. Now, Mark Richt recruited great at Georgia. I loved how he recruited at Georgia, but Georgia never recruited that offensive line. And now you see it. Stetson Bennett got sacked 9 times last year. 9 times. Go back to Auburn. How many times was Ashford sacked? It seemed like he was getting 4 or 5 a game. There's a game, I think it was Penn State, where Tank Bisbee had negative yards before contact. Negative yards before contact in a college football game, in an SEC game. That an SEC offensive line should never